So for my thematic essay construction lesson, I chose to do foreign policy, the Cold War. So that was the August 2013 Regents. So I would begin the lesson by just going over the agenda as well as going over the learning target. So the learning target for this lesson is I can fill in the thematic essay organizer that includes claims, relevant evidence, and analysis of the theme. So here's the August 2013 task for the thematic essay. I would next go over the rubric with the students. So I posted everything on Google Classroom so that way they'd have access to it. And I wouldn't want to spend too much time in class going over the rubric as they've seen these before. They're familiar with the layout of them and they're also able to access them on Google Classroom. And I reiterate to them in the lesson that they should be looking over that before they turn in, as this essay is their summative assessment for this unit. And then here's the scores for the 1 through 3. All right, so the ticket in is going to be starting out as an independent activity for 5 to 7 minutes where they will go on Google Classroom, open the assignment, and the task is for them to list any information they know about the Marshall Plan and NATO, or North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They're going to do this without using their notes or resources because we just came off of a huge project that they just did for the Cold War where they did presentations as well, where this was really an opportunity for them to teach each other about the Cold War because there's a lot of aspects of it. And usually at this time period in the year, you do need to get through the material pretty fast because the Regents is vastly approaching. And you usually kind of are in that kind of time squeeze at the end because you still need to get to civil rights and then also more current issues because every year they add to the Regents more current information. So they're going to do all that on their own. And then they're going to collaborate with a partner and fill in as much as they can, make sure that they're going over anything that doesn't really fit. And then we're going to group together, come together, and come up with a filled in exemplar where I would be listening to them and filling in an organizer that we'd kind of post on Google Classroom that they can use to be able to do their essays. So their graphic organizer is going to be starting out with just reviewing what should be in the essay and what should not. So like no personal pronouns, no repeating phrases over and over again, no personal opinions on the topic, and then also not giving away too many facts or examples in your introduction. Save that for the body paragraphs. So I made a graphic organizer that I think would work really well, especially for students who have disabilities, because it really scaffolds their thinking and also giving them a list of transitional phrases so that way they would be able to work through that and make it more elevated in their writing. So they're just going to come up with use the theme to come up with some kind of historical context, rephrasing in their own words. Moving on to the task where they're picking two. We pre-selected the Marshall Plan and NATO, and then come up with that thesis statement, going over that it should be one sentence at the end of the introduction that should answer the task, which in this case would be addressing whether the Marshall Plan and NATO were successful in limiting the expansion of communism. So the graphic organized for the first body paragraph, very similar to the second body paragraph. So in this one, they're going to be discussing the Marshall Plan, coming up with a claim or topic sentence where they're going to introduce the economic or military action and what it is, then the historical circumstances surrounding that action, describe the time period, what was going on, why was it necessary, and then discuss the effectiveness of that action. So that's where you're really connecting it back to the thesis statement. They'll do the same thing for NATO, go through the same thing for the body paragraphs. So basically in this section of the lesson, they're using all that information they've already collected. So it's their choice whether they want to kind of bullet the information or whether they want to really start writing sentences. So that's their time. They have about 20 minutes to fill in the body parts of both of these paragraphs. And then we would end the lesson with a ticket out the door of filling in that conclusion. So in the conclusion, you're summarizing both those body paragraphs and then restating the thesis statement. And that would be their ticket out the door. They'd have about 10 minutes to complete this. And then the next lesson we'd move on to, that's all the time they're going to have is in the next lesson to complete this essay. So they should use this class period wisely and be able to get as much information on that organizer so they can transfer it into their summative assessment, the thematic essay. Thanks for listening.